camera. Oh,
I'm not doing it for camera. I'm doing it
not
for
that
myself.
one.
Mark, you've got to get rid of that one. That is the one.
That one is the punctuation mark at the inner side of my eyebrow.
Look into the thing closely so they see it. No. Turn. No, they're not going to be able to see it, but I can see it. Turn to me. I'm not doing this coffee moaning with that eyebrow. I'm not doing it.
Hang on.
I'm leaving.
Hang on. That hair provides the edge of this eyebrow. I'll use moulding mud later to stick it in.
Moulding mud? Fucking hell, what have we become?
Moulding mud on my
No. Mark.
No.
Get your glasses off. Otherwise I'm going to do something. Oh my God, it's growing straight at me as if at an attack.
Emily,
It's not growing anymore the way it should.
It's gone. Now I've lost the edge of my elbow.
This is going to go well.
Jesus
This is going to be a great current affairs catch-up. I think you need to go and make a cup of tea for me. You've been terrible this morning.
What sort of tea? I've made you a cup of tea. You farted in bed.
Mark!
And then expected a hug. What sort of tea do you want?
I did actually.
What sort of tea do you want?
Just a normal, please. I did, and a glass of water. I did actually have a little problem this morning. Anyway, then I said, but that was earlier. And then I said, give me a hug. No, give me a kiss on my cheek before you go. And he said, but you farted. And I went, oh my God, you've watched a human being come out of my da-da. How can this be a problem?
There's no correspondence.
I grew a human being in this body. I grew 2 human beings in this body, and he's worrying about that. Good God. Good morning, everybody. We have, of course, got... If this is your first time here, you might have actually already left. Thinking to yourself, I came here for the news. But if this is your first time here, we always do have a little just catch up. We have a little moment. Also, stay to the end today because I found something that apparently in just 8.5 minutes is going to bring you joy. Mark is going to be joyful. We're going to get him to act out what he needs to do with his body to get more joy. So you could also share that joy. So stay for that. And also, I'm so sorry that we had to dash off yesterday. Like 4 minutes after we ended the live. But we've remembered those people whose birthday it was that we couldn't sing to yesterday. And guess what? We're going to sing to you today instead. Isn't this lovely colour? I love this colour. Anyway, so yes, let's go in first with. Is that all right? Because we're blurry there.
How are we, guys? How are we looking? Shall I change over to? Let me change over to the different Wi-Fi.
My darlings.
But maybe it's a solar flare.
Ooh.
Oh, thanks, Sarah Clift. Is that? I've lost them, but still seeing comments. Are we back? Are we there? Can you see us? Give us a yes. Give us a yes. Give us a yes. Looking good today, Mark. Thank you, Lee. Very kind of you. Congratulations, Julie Hilton. Hi, back. Okay, good. All right. We're back. So what have we got on the agenda today? We want to talk a little bit about the Emily Atack. We did a live last night, straight after the show. Actually, we don't do this often. I want to share a few of your comments that you popped underneath the live.
First of all, let's just see how many people watched it, just out of interest.
Watched what? Oh.
Last night.
Yeah.
Who watched it? Did any of you watch it? Oh, it's blurry.
Right, hang on. I'm just going to see if our Wi-Fi's come back. Wi-Fi for a while, have we? Hopefully is that better? It was hard to watch. Yes, most of it, Mark. Okay, people, yes, I did. You're not yet. I did. Julie Neary, Kerry McDonough. Yeah. I think a lot of people were potentially watching Love Island.
Well, we just switched it. Okay. We'll just give you just like a brief outline for those people that might not have watched it. So Emily Atack, who you will know as comedian, actress, presenter. She was the In-Betweeners. She's the hot young thing in In-Betweeners, and a very good actress in In-Betweeners. But she was very much the sexy girl in it, wasn't she? Very sexualized and all of that. Anyway, this documentary was all about the horrendous assaults. I'm going to call them assaults that she gets on a daily basis, sometimes up to 100 disgusting messages, dick pics, all manner of just terrifying things, right reaching up to the point of being threatened with rape and just awful. And so the documentary started out with her thinking that she wanted to change the law to make it illegal to send, was it the dick pics?
Yeah.
Anyway, but then it moves on and it's a real journey through it. She talks to a lot of really interesting people. And at points, we both found it incredibly moving. At points, both of us actually ended up in tears. I'm sure it would have been triggering for a lot of people. It was certainly triggering for me. Us being parents of daughters, and also, most women, not all, have experienced, the imbalance, the power, that male toxic power situation. The balance is out. Anyway, of course, at the end of the documentary, what do we end up with? What we always end up with. And we can't keep saying that's too difficult a thing to do. It's the only thing we can do. It's about education right from tiny. How we talk to women, how we.
Can I just very quickly share something that before it flies up? Laura Lou, there's a guy where I live who sends threatening messages to local women. He leaves dead flowers on their doorstep. The police can't do a thing, even knowing who he is.
Laura, you know what?
Totally relate.
2 years ago, that would have really shocked me. But now, unfortunately, we are in this terrible situation where we aren't shocked by what the police won't do. I mean, that was the only part in the documentary that was a little bit, because obviously 2 policemen came on because it was a documentary, came to see her in her home. But we've had some really shocking situations with the police, absolutely shocking, where they've just gone, well. So I really feel for you. And you know what I would say, what various people that we've known that have had not that same situation, but similar kinds of things, they were told on the nod to keep on, all the neighbourhood, keep on approaching, complaining to, it's not neighbourhood watch anymore. What's it called? I can't remember,
it had another name.
The police thing where you, oh God, what's it called? Anyway, because if they get a certain number of complaints, then it has to go back to the police. And if you just keep doing that, apparently, some action will be taken.
It is...
What, it's not neighbourhood watch. If somebody can remind me what it's called now.
OWL, is it? OWL?
No, it's not neighbours. It's more crime stoppers.
Is it?
Thank you.
Apparently, if it hits a certain number, then interest will be.
So get everyone in your neighbourhood to do it. We've been told that a number of times by people. Yeah.
Catherine Jones. How bad is it that it's so scary? Why can't the police do anything about it? Yeah, I mean, if I had one, it's not a criticism, but I mean, I think they wanted to show in the documentary how there was a legal route of sorts. But the extent to which that's deliverable is dependent on how reliable your local police are, how reliable, the other thing about the police, like every other sector that's on strike at the moment, is they're overwhelmed. I know one kind of, there's all the terrible stories at the far end of misogyny, etc., and that's got to be called out. But there are so many good policemen, and they are battling the same things.
And then they're battling the system because the courts are overwhelmed, so you can't get through people courts. And two women that we're talking about that work with violence, online violence, they were saying, we're just going to open another channel to prisons, and then they will never get a long sentence, and then they go into prison, they come out, and then what's happened? What's changed? Nothing. So the only thing is education. The only thing is other men standing up to men when they use this language and calling them out.
I've just got to try and go to another Wi-Fi. Sorry about this, guys. Guys, we might go a little bit fuzzy on this live. We can't.
4G?
Well, 4G then goes, it's very patchy, so it comes in and out. Let me just change back the Wi-Fi band on here, so it's not,
Yeah, so that's where we left. I mean, in the Independent today, I think it was the Independent, they were talking about, and I wondered what you thought about this, that this should be made compulsory, this documentary, in schools.
Entirely agree.
And I think that's such a good idea. In fact, when we watched it, we both said, we're going to say to the girls, not like, oh, do you want to watch this? We're going to say, we want to watch this with you. And we're going to sit and watch it with them. And then we're going to have a discussion after it, because I mean it's very graphic, so be careful with that if you're thinking of getting your kids. I think it's it should be shown in schools with then obviously a big discussion after.
I mean, I sometimes wonder whether, do you remember in the 80s, I've talked about them before, the guardian angels on the tube, you sort of begin to wonder whether some kind of, I'm not encouraging vigilantism here, but, there are times where you start to think something has to be done to protect women, because if you can't protect yourselves against men, and, someone said last night, very importantly, why do we always have to say that there are good men? We all know there are good men. Let's make it an assumption that we know that there are good men, and we also know that the vast majority are good men. But it's about trying to understand why those who aren't good men, why they do it. If we don't try and understand that, we'll never get to the bottom of it. And there's been some encouragement that you were talking about, Nads, amongst some of the boys of our kids' kind of generation, where there's an aspect that's creeping in where they do say things like, don't worry, I'm not the kind to send pics. So,
ask for pics.
Or ask for pics, yeah, and all that kind of stuff. So you hope that there's a trickle down. But can I, in a moment, read some of the comments from last night? Because one of them was really, which one do you want to read?
Oh, Vicky, yes, you have spoken here a few times about my experience with the police. When I was raped, I also had a stalker, and again, they were useless. Even they would leave knives on my desk at uni. The dean blamed me and I had to leave. Well,
Good God.
I remember you sharing with us before about Vicky, and, that is... It's like in this documentary, it says, people don't come at entry point of rape. There are patterns of behaviour. And in fact, if you are getting messages consistently from somebody, you have to report it. Report it every time. Because what we all do, what so many of us do as women, we go, well, what's the point? Well, the point is we need to keep overwhelming the system and saying this is how bad it is. Because people don't really know how bad it is.
Listen to this. So, Rhys Roberts, difficulty within the police force is the blue wall of silence. So even if there's good police, they fall under the code of silence to not be ostracised, which endangers more citizens. That's a really important point. So,
I feel sorry for
in a sense, that's
police.
police peer pressure, isn't
Yeah,
it?
of
Zoe
course.
Agnew, I'm so over men doing this. I get sent horrible things. The other day, I was dropped a dick pic on the tube. My advice on that, I mean, this is terrible, isn't it? You have to turn your Bluetooth off on the tube.
And tell the police.
And then tell them. But how do you know where it's come from?
Because
I don't know if you can with AirDrop,
no, but this is what she was saying. Tell them every time.
Yeah.
Because it's like Emily Atack really made the point well, that this is the same to her as if somebody suddenly shows if you're sat on the tube and somebody drops you a dick pic, what's the difference between that and somebody standing there and putting the dick pic? People have got to understand it's not just what everybody does. Oh, gee, we all get dick pics. We shouldn't have to get to that
weird,
point.
isn't it? It's really, really democratised. That's a horrible word to use. Flashing tech, isn't it? It really has. Let me just read a few comments.
My worry is I'd be laughed at. Well, Zoe, that's a very good point, because in that documentary, there's a whole scene where she's sharing with her fellow cast members what she's been getting, and they're laughing because it's awkward. And she pushes through and keeps telling them until they get to the point where they're horrified by what she's telling them. And the thing is, we all laugh, don't we, in awkward situations. And I think we've got to stop laughing. I think we've got to be okay when we're with a group of people and somebody says something disgusting or derogatory, that we actually find the courage in us to just sit stone-faced. You don't even have to have an argument, just stone-faced. All my life, I've laughed off terrible comments that I shouldn't have laughed off.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to change that.
H. Ari said last night, there's an interesting documentary about Woodstock 99, and all the issues came from the frat boys and guys who were the epitome of toxic. Girls were being groped, raped and assaulted by these men who were 20s and 30s, who would now all be in their 40s and 50s. Extremely sweeping generalisation, but this demographic of men, I find, are the most toxic. And I'm not surprised they're the most likely group to treat women horrendously via DMs. And it is men of 40, 50 and 60. I mean, even when you go to a nightclub, or if young adults, so boys and men and women between the ages of 18 and 24 go to nightclubs or parties, they say there is a healthy quota or an unhealthy quota of men my age there. Now, I don't want to say that men like me can't go dancing, but it's fucking strange to go dancing where lots of young adults are hanging out. It really
say
is.
All the horrible comments, and this was said again by all the kids yesterday in the documentary. I just want to say something, because I just had a thought. When you said turn your Bluetooth off, and I was like, yeah, turn your Bluetooth off. You know what? That's our conditioning again.
No, I know.
No, but we must never turn our Bluetooth off. What we must do is just keep reporting. I was on the tube. I was da-da-da. Yes, they won't be able to track that
Yeah,
man.
but-
But it's
but-
really,
but for
we
young
shouldn't be
kids-
changing what we do. We have
I'm
to
sort
change.
of saying that for kids, though. I mean, isn't that the dilemma for parents?
It
On
is.
the one hand, you want to protect, and
Yeah.
in the protecting, you're actually saying to your kids, curtail your freedom.
Something that you're doing is
And on
wrong.
the other, you want to say to them, feel emancipated, feel strong,
Yeah.
feel there's a solution,
So
but you're
hard.
in the middle where you're kind. It's that classic where as a dad, you sort of think, oh, they're going out, and you're thinking, you don't think anything. There's no judgment about what they're wearing. They're going out to have a good time with their friends. They're all going to be the same and all having fun. But you know, sadly, and I'm going to keep repeating this, there's men of my age who should know better. And then there was a really good comment, Gemma Vinnell, stories I hear so often from women friends who've chatted to men they meet via dating apps, get sent videos of dicks and men masturbating. What makes them think this is acceptable? Makes me sick to the stomach. But there was another comment here from someone about the problem with women. And, and I was talking about this last night. There are huge swathes and groups of women who like to pretend they're concerned, but by being concerned, in inverted commas, they victim shame, they in a sense drive traffic and interest towards a negative interpretation of young women. And that is as much of a problem as toxic masculinity. That's toxic femininity, and that happens a lot. I'm thinking of certain women who read certain papers who,
There was actually one of a psychiatrist in it yesterday said sometimes when women are like that to other women, it's like a safety mechanism, because what they want to say is, oh, I don't post pictures like this, so nothing bad's going to happen to me. Well, that's not the case. And I love this comment from Tiggy. Wow, just spoke to my husband about it, and he said, what sort of pictures was she posting? Now, I'm sure he's a perfectly decent, lovely man, but we're so programmed to go, what was the woman doing to ask for it?
To
And
be
Tiggy
fair.
says that she then said to him, but this is what the program's about, asking for it. And that's exactly the attitude that we're trying to...
And sort of echoing what I was just saying about women, Ruby84 says, I find many women, like the women complaining about Nad's words on Loose Women, can also very much be the perpetrators of misogyny. Not in the same way, but this comes out
men.
when people are trying to address the issues that women... Sorry, I've lost the bottom of that. But it's a really important point, that. It's a really important point. If you've got... Here's the other thing. If you've got nothing nice to say nothing. Don't add.
If you don't like the way a woman dresses, unfollow her. It's as simple
What I
as
don't
that.
understand is why people want to keep following.
Zoe, I just read your comment about how a guy from behind groped you on the tube yesterday. I so sympathise. I mean, this used to happen to me as well on a regular basis coming home from school. Skirt get lifted up. And actually, yesterday in the documentary, the girls that she was talking to said the very worst, when we get the very worst of it, is when we're in our school uniform, and never put a photo of ourselves up in our uniform, because then we'd get so much, again, men over 40 coming, and Zoe saying that you had to get off. That really reminded me of, like, you immediately get off the tube. And, Zoe was saying she wanted to scream at the guy, but she was too scared. Even when the doors have closed and the tube is heading off, you're still intimidated. So anyone that thinks getting a little grope on the tube is an absolutely terrifying terrorism, I will go so far to say it's terrorism, because you're invoking terror in somebody, well, then they need to have it happen to them if they don't understand how scary it is.
There was a particularly stupid person last night who said, just don't look at the messages. Grow up. Don't look at the messages. Jacqueline Clements, I got mad with my husband last night. They were saying that in terms of, if you're receiving dick pics, don't open the messages. Sometimes you have no choice. Jacqueline Clements, I got mad with my husband last night as he said, just come off social media.
But that's, again, you're asking for it. Every time somebody says something to the woman, what she wanted to get across is that she, as a person, was left feeling, oh, so it is my fault. Everything's it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my I should come off social media. I shouldn't be so sexy. I shouldn't be funny, because a lot of men hate women being funny. Oh, I mustn't wear
A lot of women do too. I mean, it's really important to keep saying this. A lot of women do.
Long list of what she mustn't do, but nobody's got anything about what the guys shouldn't do. It's actually crazy when you look at it starkly like that.
Yeah. Final few comments on this. Amy Fenton, we shouldn't demonise men in this. It's quite a grey area. People think they can do what they want online. Well, it's the distancing of impact. You know, there was a really interesting point in it where they said the reason you get so much is because as a celebrity, they kind of almost know you're not going to reply, so they can double down on what it is they're saying without fear of consequence, which is why there was some power in her replying to one of them. And Liv says, yes, a person is only responsible for their own actions and nobody else. It doesn't matter what somebody posts. Entirely agree. There was one other one up here that I really... Murder, She Wrote. Been DM'd by my friend's husband, telling me he is bored with his sex life and watches Pornhub every night. I'm 25 and he's almost 50. I told him I felt uncomfortable and he tried to silence me.
God. Bloody hell. You know, there's a few people there saying that they're frightened to watch it because of their daughters and their granddaughters. You know, I think it's so important to be as informed as we can, but I think these programs this sort of thing can be really triggering for people. So what I would say is if you feel that, maybe read an interview with her or something else, because if you're too frightened to know what's going on, you're not going to be able to support your child in the way that they might need to. Do you know what I mean? Like, if we just do this and this, then your child is effectively dealing with it on their own. And like, you know, Mark and I have really difficult conversations with our kids, and we just try and stay really calm, whether we're talking about DMs, whether we're talking about sex as a positive thing, or whether we're talking about porn. And the reason we do that is because if they're ever in have got a problem, we want them to come to us knowing that we're not going to go, oh my God, and go crazy.
This is a really good question. A Frog.
Be prepared.
A Frog asks, what age of a child do you think could watch the documentary? That's a really good question. In the documentary, they talk about the fact that a horrendously frightening number of 9-year-olds have been sent these pictures.
Well, those girls that they were talking to, it all started for them at 12.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I would suggest, it's really hard. I would suggest from about 14 and older.
But
it depends on the child.
on what sort of attitude you have. Yeah. So she's reading out extremely graphic messages.
Yeah.
Very, very sexual. So that it depends where your child is with that. But what I would say is I don't think your child, it's ever too young to start having a conversation about what's okay and what's not okay. It's just fitting it to your child's age, you know. So like if you're talking to a 5-year-old, you're saying, or a 4-year-old, no, you know, if somebody holds your hand and you don't want to, you say, no, that's my hand, you know. So it starts like that, and then you're planting the seeds of consent from a really young age.
Gloria Chesham, it's on BBC iPlayer. I have 11 and 12-year-old girls. Yeah, I mean, I would say for 11 and 12-year-old girls, be the judge of what you think they could cope with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very... I mean, you don't see anything literally explicit.
No, but she's reading out very explicit things. What I would say is 11, 12-year-olds, I would say watch it yourself and then work out, because you know your child in a way nobody else, it's how you might say that.
Okay, obviously a really important documentary, and I think you're absolutely right. Where it could be or should be, I think it should be brought onto the syllabus. I pulled this story because I was quite staggered by it. There was a piece in the Telegraph a couple of days ago where a woman's talking about how she's sick to death of dating sober men. Now, I just wanted to ask if anyone who's dating, is on apps and all that kind of stuff, if you share in this thought. She talks about she bemoans the fact that it's become an increasingly trendy or lifestyle choice not to drink. And she finds it infuriating because, as she says, it's like dating my granddad.
There's so much to unpick here. We should have just done this as a whole bloody coffee
So the world of digital... One man drank half pints, which he picked up with 2 hands as if a child's beaker. So there are
She got the ick.
Yeah, she got the ick. And there are 2 aspects to this where I think what's being suggested is alcohol is a great lubricator, I don't mean that in any other way, of breaking down social situations and encouraging a bit of informality and allowing you to talk. I could not have dated back in the day without a drink in me of some sort. So there's that aspect. She says there's nothing sexier than a man navigating a wine list. Okay, discuss. She then talks about the various different reasons that people don't drink. There's the artist type who doesn't drink because he's sort of drinking oat milk cappuccinos and things like that. There's the type who started dry January but thought, oh, I'll carry on. There's the rare people that she says who say, I've never tried alcohol. There's others that say they're allergic. One category she doesn't say at all is someone saying, I don't drink because I'm a recovering alcoholic.
How old is she?
I think she's in her late 20s.
Right, okay, so...
No, she's 31.
I absolutely love this.
Yeah.
I think this is like a big chat in itself. So I would have been exactly the same at that age because,
Right.
I tell you why, because I was using alcohol to medicate my insecurities,
Written by a woman, by the way.
my self-loathing, my low self-esteem, my belief that I had to be the absolute centre of all entertainment, all of my opinions and my derogatory and sneering way of thinking of somebody. Now, with retrospectively, I'm ashamed. But I forgive myself because I wasn't well and because I was using, alcohol is a poison, it's a drug, and I used that drug all the time because I didn't have proper confidence in myself. I didn't know how to just be myself. I didn't know how to sit with my feelings. I didn't know how to say, oh, I'm going to be a bit quieter tonight because I don't know, I'm a bit overwhelmed with life. I didn't have this language. My love language was, I burst into a situation, I'm jumping on the tables, I'm like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, oh, I don't care. That's who I was. I was papa. So it was all about my issues. And Lee just said, oh my God, my dating game's just got more difficult for me, not drinking. No, Lee, because you don't want that. You wouldn't have wanted me. Well, you might have for a couple of nights, but you wouldn't have wanted me long term.
I think
because I wasn't able to communicate on any depth because I was avoiding myself all the time by drinking because I had so much fear about who I was. Now, nobody in the room would have known that. I looked like I was just, woo, just the coolest, most confident, it was all a fucking lie, held up by alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it so many times. I mean, thank God. I mean, if I hadn't had alcohol, we wouldn't have met. I mean, in the chaos, beautiful disasters happened. Beautiful children, bizarre. You can look at all of this stuff and you think, oh my...
I don't know, I did really like you sober.
No. It's not that you don't, but I do think the important thing you say there and the important thing about this column is that it is an age thing. I think one's attitude... I remember vividly saying to friends who weren't drinking, and in later years I realised before I was a recovering alkie that they were in recovery. I was like, this is really awkward, me drinking and you not drinking. She talks about the fact that sitting opposite someone who isn't drinking and you've got a drink in your hand is really, really hard to do. But let me just run through some of the types. There's the I'll have just one drink or I won't sleep men, generally tech nerds. There are the I don't ingest stimulants of any kind because my body is a temple people. There's the artists, actors. She equates civil servants with artists and actors. That's curious. They're possibly vegan, definitely do yoga, almost certainly wear Crocs and socks.
So they look
then
after
most
themselves.
challenging of all, there are the guys who just never like the taste. Could they not just try a bit harder, she says. But as I say, there's no one here who's stopped drinking because they have a problem with alcohol. How would you sit opposite someone who says that and think, oh, that's a bad thing? This is a really good point. Thanks, Lucy Heaney. Colin Farrell has spoken about how difficult he found dating and intimacy once he became sober. This is a fascinating sentence, or line he said. Oh, where's it gone? He said he hadn't uttered a sober word in 15 years, let alone be intimate with someone. It's hard. It's hard being intimate and being vulnerable without some... I think the word around alcohol that's so important and is used for some of the alcohol, making alcohol process is fortification. For me, alcohol fortified me. It made me feel confident. It gave me armor. It gave me, I felt character. And it's taken an enormous number of years to even get to a point, and that's where this helps, where I feel I can even be more myself and not worry about the fact that I'm not drinking.
It's a brilliant article. I love it. It's
And
you know why I've really liked this today? When you go to AA meetings and it reminds you of how you have to keep things in check. That's actually made me feel really good today because it's reminded me where I was and where I am now and all my behaviours in the past that were, that I'm actually quite ashamed of. Like, I was the person that would go, "What do you mean you're not having a drink?"
Yeah.
"Oh, I'm going to go and get you a double." What the fuck? Who was I to do that? And I just would never do that now.
Yeah.
I would never. And recently I was somewhere that somebody did that, and it was so strange. I was like, "Oh my God, this was me always."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really good
I wanna-
article.
yeah, really good
Where
article.
was it, in case somebody wants to?
It's in the Telegraph, and it's entitled, "It's Like Going Out with My Granddad, Why I'm Sick of Dating Sober Men." I really want us to talk quickly about the Love Island story, because we watched it
It ties
after.
in nicely with the Emily Atack.
Yeah. And this is the story. Is his name Shaq?
Shaq.
Bad behaviour by boys. I think it's Tom, is it? The one who's kind of running around. If anyone who's watching it, Tom, I find Tom fascinating. He reminds me a little bit of Gary Barlow in the speed with which he talks. But someone said, I'm really pleased, I can't remember which girl, he says absolutely nothing. All he says
Tom.
is yes. Yeah, it's
I
Tom.
don't know.
I don't,
Well,
yes.
should I?
Yes.
Sometimes.
And he also
No.
does this really weird thing. I don't know if you've noticed. I don't know if this is a youngsters thing, where they can all talk about themselves and what's going on in the third person, like it's a table. It's like, "Oh yeah, I really think we need to sit at it, and I think, we really need to use the chairs." And it's sort of like,
It's like, are they given
weird.
a new vocabulary when they go? Vocabulary, I can't say it, when they go in, because they use these. They all use the same sayings, don't they? It's really
Yeah.
weird.
It
that
is
you
what
wouldn't
it
e-
is.
No, it's so odd. But anyway, you don't
The
need to
head's
have watched
turned.
Love Island
No.
for this. What we wanted to discuss from it. Basically, this chap Shaq is the epitome, if it turns out to be true, if this is his true self, which at the moment I'm really believing.
I like Shaq at the moment.
He, on a daily basis, with real power, oh my God, if I was his mum, I would be crying with pride, calls the men out.
Yeah, it's the first. It's the
Every
first time.
day.
It's the first time I can think of actually in Love Island someone doing that, and I think.
And it's really funny because you watch some of them get a bit itchy and then they
Yeah.
calm down.
And to be fair to
and
Tom,
they listen to him.
But did you notice that, just quickly, the narrative of what happened there? Shaq came over. He was really reasonable. He wasn't aggressive. He was like, "Look, you need to see how this is coming across." Tom
From
was
the
really,
girl's perspective.
Tom was really bristly, and he did the classic male thing of, "Don't tell me what to do. You don't need to tell me. I don't need to know."
He said, "No,
but
I'm not."
Shaq kind of gently kept going.
No, but
and-
what was his actual words? He said, "I'm not telling you what to do. I just thought it'd be good for you to know from the female perspective what's happened."
But what happened after that, regardless of whether you think they were real or not, Tom actually went round and started apologising to people because Shaq had really sat down. For me, it was a really encouraging moment in male behaviour.
Joyful. And before that, another boy, again, you don't have to watch Love Island, Ron, who's trying to have his cake and eat it and jumping between the different girls. He was really stern with him. He said, Ron, the one that keeps mucking about Lana. Ron, the player.
I thought that was Tom.
No, Tom is the player, but he's the tall one.
Oh,
Ron's the short one.
I'm talking about the one with the
No,
stubble.
I said, and I'm saying, and in another situation, Shaq called out Ron. You've talked about Tom, I'm talking about
Is
Ron.
Tom the one with the stubble?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good.
So Ron is playing fast and loose with a couple of girls, and Shaq again called him out. He said, "Now listen, you've turned your head now twice. If you turn your head again, she is not going to be there for you because you've pushed it." And he got a bit, and he went, no, I just want to say that to you because I don't want you to regret it, because when I see you there, you seem to have something quite good, but like basically you're always looking for the grass is greener. It was just, he's my hero.
Can I also say, I mean, I've said this before in previous series, just as much as I think Emily Atack's
Well
documentary
done, Jill.
should be watched by young kids with parents or, whatever, steered towards it over a certain age. I think Love Island is a really, really good opportunity when you're watching it as a family, because there's behaviour that the kids, I think, recognise, but they don't realise it's necessarily controlling or kind of manipulative. And it's weird, it's interesting, the manipulation that goes on. And what you have to understand, and I think people do forget this, is part of the sort of wooing each other kind of process, inherent in it is an element of trying to convince someone that you're attractive. And I think we can sometimes fall foul of going a bit too extreme to thinking anything that's self-promoting or is suggesting they want to be with you is in some way, sinister. It isn't always sinister. And I think this year shows in a non-sinister way, but the ways in which games are played by boys, or a little amount of kind of,
I would say, charm is happening. As far as this, I think it's an important parenting lesson. I think it's important as a parent. We watch it and we have a really nice time. We sit and we chill with our youngest, and we have amazing conversations out of it. Amazing.
But Kate
it is
Farragut-
an entry level into so many different conversations. It's like really important.
And I just want to say, I think there's a How to Stay Married about why do certain women or some women choose bad boys. It's really odd. Kate Farragut, love that Shaq has done this. Annoying that he's the only one doing it. Also surprised that the girls keep going for Tom, even though he keeps
Behaving like that.
It's weird, isn't
No,
it?
but I said last night, I think he's going to not end up with anybody. But Kate, you know what you just said there? I'm glad he's doing it, but it's a shame he's the only one. He is such a shining example of it. He is such a shining example of it that we mustn't think, oh, he's only one. We're going to go, wow, we've got one.
Yeah.
This is just brilliant.
Yeah.
I want to make a program with him.
Shaq.
Yeah.
Challenging male behaviour. Final thing.
Reese, I'd love to know what you think. I know you don't watch
Reese
Love
is here.
Island, but do you have
Ovi
you?
back in 2019 called out Michael for how he was mistreating Amber Gill and referenced he would like the same behaviour to happen to his. He wouldn't like the same behaviour to happen.
Right.
Oh, would he like the same behaviour to happen to his sisters?
Reese, have you
Men
seen
holding them to
Shaq?
account.
Have you
Yeah.
seen Shaq?
He's great.
just
And going back to
I just want to quickly pick up on something. Jill McCraw said,
Yeah.
I'm so glad I've caught this live. I'm 16 years sober at Christmas.
Wow, well
now,
done.
Jill,
Congratulations.
I wonder if
That's brilliant.
how often you join this live, and you talk about higher power and stuff, and if today you just need to hear again how incredible it is to be sober, and maybe that I love that if that's where you were at today and you just happened to catch this live and we were talking about that. I hope that
Reese
that's what
Roberts
you got.
says he has, and it's great.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
watching
great,
Love
isn't
Island,
it?
says Julie Everts, but I agree now to watch previous ones with my daughter, and yes, the conversations are brilliant. I just wanted to quickly share this with you as a coffee addict. Huge differences in getting your coffee on the high street. I'm only sharing this if you're into coffee, because I was staggered and amazed by this fact. Now, they suggest that you shouldn't have more than 500 milligrams of coffee a day. The shops, they look at Caffè Nero, Costa, Greg's, Pret, and Starbucks. And I now know why I go to Pret. I go to Pret because they have the highest caffeine of any shop in their espresso, 180 milligrams. That's the highest amount. Now, the great thing about caffeine, as we know, is it keeps you alive and all that kind of stuff. But the thing about
Well, hang on.
it
doesn't
makes you
keep
live for
people
longer.
live longer that drink coffee.
But I just wanted to give you a sense. So Caffè Nero, Starbucks is the lowest, 33 milligrams. Greg's is low. Caffè Nero is 45 milligrams. But Pret and Costa have the strongest. Now,
Wow.
Costa has the strongest cappuccino, get this, at 325 milligrams. Now,
I don't even know what that means.
Well, I'm going to give you perspective. 180 milligrams at Pret is the equivalent, so an espresso at Pret is the equivalent of 3 Red Bulls.
But I'm
Think of
imagining
that.
grams.
Don't worry about grams.
milligrams. Oh,
Think
it's
of
milligrams.
3 Red Bull cans.
Oh my
That's
God.
Pret. But then if you go to Costa, that's
not good.
almost 6 Red Bull cans in a cappuccino.
How many block this
Wow.
person?
Wow.
Keeps
Yeah,
saying
okay,
all the
okay.
stuff. Now, I on this coffee thing, when Mark says you don't die, basically, there is now science-backed proof that people that drink coffee live longer because it clears out the plaque in heart and brain and all of that. So we'll hold
That's
off
the plaque.
heart disease, brain, Alzheimer's. This is Professor Tim Spector that told us this on the live that I did the other week. So we don't have to feel bad about drinking coffee.
But isn't it interesting how the addict knows? So my best coffee on the high street is a Pret one, and there's a reason
So
for that.
weird. You're
Isn't
so
that weird?
drawn,
So
such an
drawn
addict.
to it. Okay,
Right, have we got time for a quick bit of joy?
go for it.
Okay, we are well over, but
Should we do a few birthdays?
oh,
in
let's do
case-
the birthdays.
Yeah, so from
we missed these birthdays yesterday. I really hope I haven't seen Kimberly here today.
Yeah, can I just say quickly, because I was going to say this yesterday, Kira Thompson, you've got a 4 weeks old baby. Congratulations.
Oh,
And I hope parenting has proven to be
congratulations.
everything you wanted
Oh.
it to be. Avril Butcher, happy birthday for yesterday.
Happy birthday for yesterday. Happy birthday for yesterday. Happy birthday for yesterday, Avril Butcher. Happy birthday, Avril Butcher. Helen Groves, happy birthday to you yesterday. Happy birthday to you yesterday. Happy birthday, dear Helen Groves. Happy birthday to you.
Don't forget Kimberly.
Happy birthday, Kimberly. Happy birthday, Kimberly. Happy birthday, dear Kimberly. Happy birthday to you.
And then we have, can we all give tired mummy a big hug? She's going through a very
She is
tough
going
time.
through serious stuff. So a big hug to you, tired mum. I'm so sorry you're facing what you are facing.
Absolutely. Big love. I've sent you a message elsewhere as well too. And Rosemary, it's your 70th birthday, Rosemary. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rosemary. Happy birthday to you.
Now Nadia is going to share with you all.
Well, it's very late now, 40 minutes. You've got
Should we do it tomorrow?
We're going to have to do it tomorrow.
Okay.
We're going to have to do joy tomorrow. Hopefully we've given
Joy
you some
workout
joy
tomorrow.
anyway.
Have a lovely day.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell and we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye.